has trade agreements covering 90% of the GDP of countries involved in the talks. Instead, the TPP is a major power grab by large corporations. The text of the TPP includes 29 chapters, only 5 of which are about trade. The remaining chapters are focused on challenges that multinational corporations have not been able to pass in Congress, such as restrictions on internet privacy, increased patent protections, greater access to litigation, and further financial deregulation. I have a feeling that like these things like SOPA and PIPA and shit like that, I mean, they want to push them through. There's no doubt about it, but really they use them so that they get everybody focused on that, and then if they get defeated, then they got this working on the back burner, right? This is the real thing. This is what it's really about, right? You think these corporations are content with being, within Canada or within United States and having to go through the hoops and all that to be able to ship their manufacturing to third world countries where they can use sweatshops right? Because we don't make anything here in our countries anymore in the West, right? It's all being made in China, it's all being made in Vietnam and places like that. This is the whole idea for them. How can we make it so we can make even more money and get more control and keep an eye on every single human being at the same fucking time? So far as it's known, the contents of the TPP is from documents that have been leaked from NGOs and industry meetings. Unlike other trade deals, the White House refuses to make the text available. Of course, we've already discussed that. The White House is completely overrun by Goldman Sachs and other massive corporations that have set up their puppet president, Obama, who is wonderfully psychopathic enough to be able to do all this to his own people and not even flinch. In fact, the negotiations refused to publish the text until 4 years after it is signed into law. Why are they being so secretive? Former U.S. Trade Representative Ron Kirk said he opposed making the text public because doing so would raise such opposition that it could make the deal impossible to sign. That's what we said before, right before in the other article. I wanted to get to the part here where they're talking about medical. Here it is, right? One thing to be clear is the impact of the TPP on healthcare. The intention of the TPP is to enhance and protect the profits of medical and pharmaceutical corporations without considering the harmful effects their policies will have on human health. We know that the TPP will extend pharmaceutical and medical device patents and provide other tools to keep prices of these necessities high. This will make medications and treatments unaffordable for millions of people, it already is, and raise the cost of national health programs, which are almost already completely out of reach for most struggling people. At its worst, the TPP will provide a pathway to infect the world's health system with deadly parasite of for-profit health corporations that plague the U.S., right? It's exactly what's happened to the United States. You have let the corporations, the pharmaceutical, do I dare I use the psychopathic word again? The completely evil, right? Pharmaceutical corporations that have completely dismantled any sort of fair system that might have existed in the United States and replaced it with something that is so fantastically out of reach for the average person that it really is one of the worst healthcare systems in the world. And the whole Obamacare makes it even worse. And all this to protect these pharmaceuticals, these massive monster corporations. Through the TPP, pharmaceutical and medical device corporations are seeking extensive patent protections using the process known as evergreening. You ever heard that term before, evergreening? The TPP gives 20 years of patent protection for pharmaceuticals and medical devices. However, patents can be renewed for another 20 years each time there is a change in the indication or delivery. For instance, if a drug is indicated for headaches, but then the pharmaceutical company finds out that it is also helpful for stomach cramps or makes it a capsule instead of a tablet, a new patent may be issued. In reality, patents can be extended indefinitely under the TPP. So they just want to take control of all of that, right? Doctors Without Borders criticized this practice, stating that the patent protections in previous trade agreements raised the price of life-saving medications and made them unavailable to people in poorer countries. Patents prevent the production of low-cost generic forms of medications, yet it was the availability of generic medicines to treat HIV and other infectious diseases that allowed the advances to be made in decreasing their impact in developing countries. Yeah, interesting to hear from Doctors Without Borders. They know exactly what this means. It means that people will not be able to afford getting the treatments. They'll become so out of reach because pharmaceutical companies, these mega monster corporations, are concerned with their bottom line more than anything else in the world. Because of the negative impact on public health from patent protections in previous trade agreements, such as the Korea Free Trade Agreement, former President Bush rolled some of these practices back. Unfortunately, the TPP will move them forward again. Here's another thing that it goes further than previous agreements by also requiring that surgical techniques, medical tests, and treatments be patented. Let's patent everything. Let's make it so that nobody can do anything without having to pay a lot of money to these mega corporations. Is it any wonder they don't want you to know a goddamn thing about it? Is it any frickin' wonder? These are the deals that are being signed all the time. Another good example is just recently Obama signing the UN gun law there, right? Which he didn't tell anybody, right, when he did it. All these things that completely subvert, for instance, the Second Amendment in the United States. Doctors With Borders also expressed concern that patent protections encourage the innovation based on profit instead of the needs of the people, particularly those in poor nations. Corporations do not see it as in their financial interest to address health conditions more prevalent in poor nations, which do not have the financial resources to buy their products. But it is often in these situations that treatments can have the greatest impact. They don't give a flying fuck about the impact of the quality of life. Let's be honest, right? They don't give a flying fuck. They want to make money off you, and they want to make as much money as possible. They are outright evil. And attacking public health systems, because then all of a sudden your same, like here in Canada, your Medicare system will fall with underneath this, and then what do you know? All of a sudden you can't afford your medications. All of a sudden governments think, well, we could set prices. No, you can't, because you're signed on to the TPP. An area of great concern is the language within the TPP concerning state-owned enterprises. These are institutions that are fully or partially owned by governments. SOEs are very common in countries such as Vietnam, Malaysia, and Singapore. Corporate lobbyists are concerned that the SOEs have an unfair advantage over private industry, right? Why should these state-run things that they're there to provide services for people who probably wouldn't be able to afford them, why should they have the ability to do that? Let's destroy that ability and let's make it nothing but profit, and fuck the people who can't afford their medications or get their treatments or have their surgeries. Fuck them in the ear, fuck them in the other ear. Pardon my French. So these advantages, okay, I said that. Let's take a little look more. I mean, there's so much here to cover. We talked about Alan Grayson before. Here, in an article posted on the article from the Huffington Post, Alan Grayson on the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Obama secrecy hides assault on Democratic government. Progressive Democrats in Congress are ramping up pressure on the Obama administration to release the text of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, a secretive free trade agreement with 10 nations, amid intensifying controversy over the administration's transparency record and its treatment of classified information, because that administration is so completely out of control and is so intent on destroying national sovereignty so intent on being able to watch every single human being, not just in their own country, but everywhere else as well. It's just madness, how out of control. But that's what happens. When corporations take over governments, this is what happens. If you think like a corporation, you think of nothing but control and power. The only public information available, well, we kind of discussed that before. Let's talk about here what Alan Grayson told the Huffington Post on Monday. Members of Congress have provided with only a limited access. He viewed the edited version of the negotiation text last week, but that secrecy policies at the Office of U.S. Trade Representative created scheduling difficulties that delayed his access for nearly 6 weeks. Yeah, it's just scheduling difficulties. We gotta figure it out. Give us a few more weeks. Gotta figure out how to prevent you from getting this information. Then finally they give it to him, but nope, you can't take any notes, you can't bring it home with you, you can't look on the computer with it, you can't share it with anybody, can't have anybody with you. Better have a good fucking memory, right? Maybe as a photographic memory, you can print the whole bloody thing out, but somebody's got it. The Obama administration has barred any congressional staff nurse from reviewing the full negotiation text and prohibited members of Congress from discussing the specific terms of the text with trade experts and reporters. Staffers on some committees are granted access to portions of the text under the committee's jurisdiction. So here's a quote from Grayson. This, more than anything, shows the abuse of the classified information system. They maintain that the text is a classified information, and I can't get clearance because I'm a member of Congress, but now they tell me that they don't want me to talk to anybody because if I did, I'd be releasing classified information. Kind of said that before, but bears repeating. And here they, of course, make reference to Edward Snowden's recent disclosures of the NSA and how they're spying on you and they're watching everything you do and da-da-da-da-da. But this is what they do. Isn't it ironic? Isn't it ironic that the government thinks it's all right to have a record of every single phone call that Americans make, but it's not all right for American citizens to know what sovereign powers the government is negotiating away? Of course. Of course. The irony is it's stinging. It's just out of control. The fact that Obama hasn't been thrown out of office and into a prison cell, or at the very least into a court and charged with treason against the Constitution, against the Second Amendment, against, now as we've seen here, against the rights of citizens, against the Medicare, all these things that will be just destroyed. They're talking here about the intellectual property chapter of the deal linked online more than a year ago. Internet freedom advocates criticized the provisions as problematic for tech companies and free speech, while public health experts said it would dramatically restrict the access of life-saving medicines in poor countries, which I covered just before. Yeah, I mean, I did a podcast on the entertainment industry and how they had written this